Greetings, citizens of today. I am George Washington, speaking across the centuries with words forged in the fires of our nation's birth, reaching out through the veil of time to address a people still striving for that ever-elusive union of justice and liberty. It is with great respect, and perhaps a touch of astonishment at what modern ingenuity has wrought, that I come before you to herald a unique endeavor. Not Well Podcast is bringing forth letters from the Founding Fathers themselves, speaking to you of your government, your challenges, and the hopes we entrusted to generations yet to come. In this venture, you will hear the voices of those who shaped the foundation of this great republic. We bore witness to the birth of freedom, and now we stand as humble messengers to remind you of the principles upon which it was built, principles threatened by the turmoil and tribulations of your time. We shall speak of government's purpose of power and restraint, and of the rights and duties of a free people. So gather round, listen well, and let us together reflect on how far you have come and how far you have yet to go. This is Not Well Podcast, where the echoes of history meet the present moment. Yours in service and eternal vigilance, George Washington.
To the people of today, as I sit here, quill in hand, reflecting on the centuries since our great experiment in self-government began, I feel compelled to offer my thoughts on that venerable document, the Constitution of the United States. It was no small task, I assure you, to craft a framework capable of binding together disparate colonies to safeguard liberty and to provide order and justice. It remains your responsibility now, as it was ours then, to understand its meaning and ensure its preservation. The Constitution was and is designed to serve as a charter for government, a set of principles and structures to guide your nation. In simplest terms, it seeks to answer two critical questions. How shall we govern ourselves? And how shall we prevent tyranny from taking root? Let us begin with the structure it established. The Constitution created three branches of government, each with separate powers but designed to check and balance one another. There is a wisdom here rooted in an understanding of human nature. Ambition must counter ambition. No single branch, the legislative, the executive, or the judicial, should wield unchecked power. Each was given distinct duties so that no one man or group could dominate the whole. The Congress, which makes your laws, represents the people and the states. It is divided into two chambers, the House of Representatives, close to the people's voice through frequent elections, and the Senate, which acts as a more stable deliberative body. This division is intended to slow hasty decisions and encourage thoughtful debate. The executive, headed by the president, carries out the laws. This role is powerful but limited. The president can lead, command the armed forces, and negotiate with foreign nations, but cannot legislate at will. This ensures the law is executed faithfully, not made by whim. The judiciary interprets the laws, ensuring that they align with the Constitution itself. Its judges serve not for personal gain or momentary favor, but for life, so that they may rule impartially, without fear of reprisal or temptation of influence. Now, you may ask, what is the purpose of these divisions? The answer is simple: freedom. We knew then, as must be remembered now, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. By separating powers, we created obstacles to tyranny. By enabling branches to check one another, we ensured that no ruler could become a king. But the Constitution is not merely a design for government. It is a pledge of rights to you, the people. The first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, were crafted to protect your freedoms: speech, religion, press, assembly, the right to bear arms, and more. It is your shield against an overreaching government. It guarantees that your homes cannot be invaded without cause, that you have the right to a fair trial, and that the government cannot trample upon your liberties without answering to you. In this age, as in mine, there will be those who seek to expand their power, to suppress dissenting voices, or to claim that the Constitution is an obstacle to their designs. They will speak of efficiency and expediency, of urgency and crisis. But remember this: the Constitution was crafted precisely for times of trial. It is there to protect against hasty decisions born of fear and passion, to ensure that liberty is not sacrificed upon the altar of expedience. My fellow citizens, the Constitution is your birthright. It is both a restraint on those who govern and a promise to those who are governed. It belongs to you, not as a relic of the past, but as a living covenant to be defended, understood, and cherished. Study it. Question those who would twist its meaning for their ends. Hold fast to its principles, for they are the bulwark of your freedom. In my time, I said we had given you a republic, if you can keep it. That charge remains. Keep it with vigilance, wisdom, and a firm dedication to the liberties it protects. Yours in liberty and enduring hope, Benjamin Franklin.
To the citizens of today, the dawn of your present age has brought forth a moment of tension and disquiet, a juncture at which I feel compelled to reach across the centuries and address you as a fellow custodian of this great experiment in self-governance. You find yourselves yet again at a crossroads of power and principle, where uncertainty clouds judgment and fear tempers hope. These trials are neither new nor insurmountable. They are, as ever, intrinsic to the practice and preservation of liberty. I once wrote that the distinct and separate exercise of government's powers, distributed across departments, is essential to the preservation of your freedom. Each branch must possess its own will, fortified by constitutional measures to check the ambitions of the others. This structure, a bastion against tyranny, exists to safeguard your liberties not only from overt despotism, but from the slow encroachments of power unbridled. The fragility of independence in your judiciary, the latitude of your legislature, and the discretion of your executive are not mere academic debates. They are the pulse of your republic's health. If any one branch should succumb to the dominance of another, the very essence of balanced governance, and with it the freedom you hold dear, would wither. Now, you face a leader who has returned to office, wielding both influence and controversy. Be wary, my countrymen, of power that seeks unchecked dominion. Ambition, I wrote, must be made to counteract ambition, and the interest of those who hold office must be tied inseparably to the preservation of constitutional principles, lest they forget their duty to the people. If your institutions have faltered, it is your right, indeed your duty, to strengthen them. Resignation to despair or surrender to division will serve only to erode the very bulwarks of your freedom. The legislative authority, by its nature, tends toward predominance in republican government. Its composition must be divided, its motivations varied, so that no single faction can dominate to the detriment of the minority. Your protection lies in the multiplicity of interests represented within your society. Let no majority, however fervent, oppress the rights of any minority. Justice, as I wrote, is the end of government, the very reason for civil society's existence. If it is lost, if one faction wields its might to crush the dissenting voices of the other, then liberty is but a hollow vessel. Do not succumb to the temptations of complacency or partisanship, even in moments of triumph or despair. Your republic's double security resides in divided power, derived from and checked by you, the people. Resist the allure of autocracy cloaked in popular support. Preserve your institutions. Speak truth to power. Demand accountability from those you entrust with leadership. And never forget that it is your vigilance, your unity, and your dedication to justice that maintain the fragile harmony of a free society. The trials you face today are reminders of what I observed long ago, that the balancing of power, the safeguarding of rights, and the pursuit of justice are tasks never completed, but always ongoing. In the midst of your uncertainty, stand firm. Do not be swayed by fear or beguiled by promises of power concentrated in the hands of one. Trust in the principles that birthed your republic, and ensure that they guide you still. With an abiding hope for your steadfastness and courage in the face of challenge, James Madison.
To my fellow citizens of today, it is with a solemn heart and unwavering conviction that I address you from the shadows of history, having witnessed through the veil of time the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of a nation built upon principles of liberty and self-governance. Your present moment finds itself steeped in anxiety, confusion, and fear as the tides of political change sweep through your great republic. The re-election of a leader as polarizing as Mr. Donald Trump has stirred passions, fractured discourse, and tested the very fabric of unity upon which the American experiment rests. I would remind you, as I once spoke in the spring of 1772, that the nature, principles, and ends of government have always been subjects of spirited debate, shaped by human frailty and ambition. The challenges of your day are not wholly dissimilar to those faced in mine. Power, untempered and unchecked, always seeks to enlarge itself, and the thirst for dominion remains as unquenchable now as it was in the courts of kings and the assemblies of aristocrats. You find yourselves at a crossroads, grappling with the essence of what it means to be a republic. Government is, as I once wrote, nothing more than the combined force of society created for the peace, order, and happiness of the people. When leaders, whether democratically chosen or ascendant through manipulation, set themselves above this sacred charge, it becomes the duty of the citizenry to question, challenge, and hold accountable those entrusted with power. No man, however grand or charismatic, must be permitted to stand above the laws of the land, nor can liberty survive the suffocating grasp of factionalism and blind allegiance. Many of you feel disheartened, perhaps betrayed by institutions that have faltered, weakened by the strains of partisan conflict. But remember this, liberty has always walked a precarious path, even under governments mixed and balanced with care. The preservation of freedom depends not solely upon the structure of government, but upon the moral character, vigilance, and knowledge of its people. In my day, as in yours, ignorance and sloth, the embrace of comfort over principle, and the willingness to be led blindly into tyranny were the greatest threats to self-governance. Ambition is a fire, and power an intoxicant. It is the duty of every citizen to temper them, to insist upon transparency and accountability, and to see through the false promises and machinations of those who would seek personal gain at the expense of public good. The strongest safeguard against tyranny is not the rhetoric of politicians, but the firm resolve of a united, knowledgeable, and courageous people. As you look to the future, remember that no leader is immune to the temptations of unchecked authority. I once said that the love of power is insatiable and uncontrollable, and it remains true. Be wary, my countrymen, of those who clothe their ambitions in patriotism and who cry loudest for your loyalty while consolidating their dominion. This republic of yours, so vast and interconnected, must be steered not by fear or division, but by the cool deliberation of justice, equity, and the rule of law. Your struggles are not without hope. The fate of this nation, as it has always been, remains in your hands. Be vigilant stewards of liberty. Demand integrity from those who govern. Embrace civil discourse, even with those who hold differing views. Guard fiercely the freedoms enshrined in your Constitution. Above all, do not despair, for no man and no moment hold the power to define forever the destiny of a people committed to self-rule. May the lessons of history, the wisdom of reason, and the courage of virtue guide you through this tumultuous time as they have guided generations before you. Stand resolute, my fellow citizens, and remember, the strength of this nation lies not in one man, but in the indomitable spirit of the many. With unshaken hope in your resilience and in the cause of liberty, John Adams.
Friends and fellow citizens, I come before you now, not as a man of centuries past, but as a fellow traveler with you in this age of unparalleled complexity and opportunity. I stand here, called once more, to speak of those principles that are the very breath of liberty and the beating heart of democracy, principles which remain unshaken by the passage of time. I am filled with gratitude and a measure of solemn humility, knowing that every age brings its unique burdens, that every generation must labor to ensure the light of liberty does not dim. When I look at this modern nation, stretching from shore to shore, brimming with innovation, its people connected in ways I could scarcely imagine, I see both the fulfillment of hopes once planted and the daunting specter of challenges that threaten our shared purpose. In this era, where commerce crosses borders at a thought's speed and information flows like torrents, we must not lose sight of the essentials: unity, justice, and the preservation of our freedoms. In this day and age, we must guard against the political strife that divides us, as corrosive now as it ever was. It is true, as it was in my time, that differences of opinion need not become barriers to progress, that dissent is no enemy of patriotism. Yet, with all our differences, let us remember this truth. We are bound by a common stake in the destiny of our republic. Every voice must be heard, every right protected. The will of the majority must be tempered by respect for minority rights, for the essence of freedom is found in our ability to disagree without disenfranchisement or fear. May we strive, then, not to silence one another, but to rise together as guardians of truth and virtue. As I speak to you now, the issues may differ, but the principles remain the same. I spoke then, and I speak again now. Equality and justice for all. Friendship and commerce with all nations, entangling alliances with none. Let our government be wise and frugal, restraining itself from meddling in our lives except to prevent harm, leaving us free to pursue our industry, our improvement, and our happiness. These principles, enshrined not only in my words, but in the hearts of those who built this nation, must guide us still. I see among you the weariness of conflict and the fatigue of mistrust. The temptation to abandon our Republican ideals may appear strong to some, yet I urge you to hold fast. No government is perfect, but ours, the product of free men and women, ever striving, remains the world's best hope. If there is corruption, let it be met not with despair, but with the courage to reform. If there is division, let us not retreat into corners of hostility, but meet in fields of understanding. In this age, where technology places power in every pocket and information both enlightens and distorts, I implore you, use reason as your guide, civility as your compass. The pursuit of knowledge, the defense of liberty, and the cultivation of virtue are the true paths to strength and resilience. Do not fear reasoned debate. Do not flee from the examination of truths. Our strength lies in our willingness to confront uncomfortable realities, to adapt without compromising the bedrock of freedom. Let us then, with courage and mutual respect, steer this ship of state through troubled waters. Let us remain vigilant against tyranny in all its guises, whether it arises from external threats or festers within. Let us continue to cultivate a society where freedom of speech, religion, and personal conscience is not merely permitted, but cherished. Fellow citizens, we are the stewards of this great experiment. The world looks to America, as it did in my day, to exemplify that government of, by, and for the people can stand firm in the face of adversity. We have been called upon to defend and advance the cause of liberty, to ensure that each generation inherits a nation not diminished, but made stronger by our efforts. In this duty, I trust you will not falter. May the guiding hand of Providence continue to bless our endeavors, and may our efforts bring prosperity and peace to this land we love so dearly. Thank you, and onward we march together. Thomas Jefferson.
Friends, citizens, and seekers of a better tomorrow, as I, Alexander Hamilton, prepare to conclude this discourse, allow me to leave you with reflections both urgent and timeless. Our great experiment, the United States of America, was forged not in pursuit of the unchecked passions of the mob, nor in the tyranny of fleeting majorities, but in the steadiness of a constitution that binds ambition, tempers power, and balances the scales of liberty and law. It has been said that pure democracy, if it were ever possible, would shine as the pinnacle of governance. Yet history has taught, and reason confirms, that such unfettered sway of the masses is neither a blessing nor a safeguard of freedom. Ancient democracies, where the people themselves assembled and ruled, descended into chaos, stripped of stability, and poisoned by passions unmoored. In their desperate thrashing, tyranny took root. The framers of our Constitution understood this and crafted a republic, a delicate structure balanced upon the pillars of representation, order, and justice. Today, we find ourselves once more at a crossroads. If you are to endure as a free people, then guard against factions that sow division and despots who stir your fears. Look not for perfection in men, but in the laws that govern them. And let ambition be met with checks, power with restraint, and every voice, no matter how small, be heard in accordance with the principles of justice. So, to all who would listen, may you strive always for that balance which is the soul of good government. Trust not in fleeting passions, but in the structure and wisdom upon which this nation was founded. May your hearts be guided by reason and your steps by the steady light of liberty. In the service of this sacred union, Alexander Hamilton.